We are coming up and everybody smile. Michael's going to play the music and let's do this. Thank you, Michael.
10 seconds. Going to send you that feed. Have a great show.
Okay. There we go. Everybody
Welcome
dances
to
me.
Read My Lips Radio, a lively hour of unscripted conversations with savvy creatives.
Go,
Producer
Sam.
and host, akaRadioRed, asks novelists, artists, photographers, designers, comedians, actors, musicians, composers, screenwriters, directors, and technology innovators about their creative passion, inspirational muses, and how they create. Ooh, how those lips can talk. Now, here's akaRadioRed.
Thank you to the wonderful voice who introduces me. Radio Red in the house. It's Monday. Where else would I be? Listen, the clocks got turned back. We added an hour, and that meant I was awake at 3:30 in the morning and didn't know what to do. The day was 19 and a half hours long. It was the longest Sunday in recorded history, as far as I know. I don't know what I did, but it really messed me up. I hope you all made sure that anything that wasn't on the satellite was turned to the right. All I had to do, I don't know about my guest, but all I had to do was switch the clock on the microwave and on the stove, and that was it. Those are the only two manual. I'm assuming the car clock because I have Sirius. I'm assuming the car clock. I haven't driven yet. Anyway, welcome to Read My Lips. This is a place where I just am in delight every Monday. I speak to interesting people. To me, a creative is all of us. It's not just singers and dancers and artists and sculptors and chefs and musicians. We're creating our life. I don't know about you, but my mom didn't give me a handbook on this is what you go. Your parents tell you what to do, but nobody told you exactly what your life path was going to be. We figured it out. How do you walk? How do you talk? How do you dress? How do you relate to people? How do you react to the stimuli around you? But I'm getting into a lecture. We don't want to do that. My guests, I'll introduce them in a second. Please raise your hand into the shape of the letter L. Here we go. Fiona and Trish and Sam. Sam, you're off camera. Move that hand a little bit. There we go. The other. That's it. Okay. On the count of three, join me in saying hello, L, L, L. Just like that. 1, 2, 3. Hello, L. We got an extra L. Let's do it one more time. 1, 2, 3. Hello, L. Michael, they tied for fourth place. They weren't, is in sync. They're very, very interesting group of people, but Michael put them down for fourth. Michael keeps track of Trish has done this many times with me before, so she knows. Thank you all. LLL is lovely, lanky Laura Leggs. She's our most loyal listener. She's in Whitestone, New York, and Sam, Fiona, and Trish knows this. I've been trying to get her to move to a place that starts with L for years. And about 2 years and 1 month ago, I looked at the map and I wanted to move to London. And I tilted my head because I had vertigo. And the first N in London went upside down. I ended up in Loudon, Tennessee. Do not ask me how. Bought the house over Zoom. Do not ask me how. But I'm here and I actually love it. So I'm waiting for Laura to come and visit, and maybe we can convince her. It'll be lovely, lanky Laura Leggs, our most loyal listener from Loudon. That sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Well, she could go to London and I could visit her too. This is November 4th. And this is the 309th day of 2024. Gregorian calendar used to be Julian. He got confused. He missed 12 days in October. Nobody knew when their birthday was. So Gregorian came along and said, okay, we'll have a leap year every 4 years. We'll add a date. We'll align with the moon. It was all wonderful. 57 days left this year. That means it's time to start planning for a New Year's Eve, kids. If you're going to be making something in the sink in the garage, if you're going to be resurrecting the still from the old whiskey in the back that Grandpa had, or you're going to be buying something online, think about it. 45th Monday of the year, and nobody cares about that except me. I'm going to read my opening poem now so I can tell you who my special guests are, because they're saying, when's you going to talk about me? So here we go. Welcome to Read My Lips, where creativity takes flight. Cool conversations with creatives, a round table of delight. I think you're all delighted. With host radio, akaRadioRed, that's me, whose words, just flow under Scarlett mic in the live streaming glow. Sam, am I glowing? Say yes. Not too much, though. Today, I love those eyes. Today, we explore lessons that creativity brings through stories and insights where imagination sings. On the percussion of creativity, we will reveal how three unique creatives work, think, and speak for real. When I call your name, wave. Sam Daley-Harris. Began with percussion. I named this after you, Sam. Began with percussion in symphonic stride. Miami Philharmonic, where music and passion collide. A co-writer on Becoming, his musical dreams took flight. From stages to results, his advocacy shines bright. Champion of microcredit, Civic courage, his call. Transformational change is Sam's rhythm for all. I hope you like that. Oh, he liked it. Good. Fiona Bayliss is with us. She cared for her children as her world took flight. A nanny abroad, guiding little lives bright. From finance to resilience, her life took a twist. 98% normal, her book tells strength can persist. With courage in hardship and a will that won't tire, she's a beacon of hope with stories that inspire. Fiona, I hope you like that. Oh, I got I'm doing well here. Trish Ahjel Roberts is back. Her joy began with a search online. From heartbake to peace, she chose a path divine. A teacher of mindfulness, a guide to inner release. She helps others find purpose, love, and inner peace. Her book, The Anger Myth, unchains what holds us bound for a happier world. There we go. With wisdom, she's renowned. I hope you like that, Trish.
Yes.
Good. So join me, Radio Red, as we dive into the flow with today's Percussion of Creativity, ready to show that life's true magic is when we dare to be bold, and creativity's stories hold lessons to be told. Gather round, lend us your eye and your ear as we dive into creativity with visions clear, aka Radio's round table set today. We hope to inspire you to live large, love life, and play. What'd y'all think? Pretty good.
That was wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else on a radio show that does a poem about you? I don't think so. I want to get into the Guinness Book on this one. I'm not sure if they have a category. Let's go around the table and find out a little more in between the little dots and dashes I put into the poem. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So, Sam, I'm going to start with you. I'm putting you on speaker view. Would you please give us a 3-minute overview, a bio overview of how you created your life? Sam, welcome.
Yes, great. It's great to be here. What I'm going to do is something I do 100 times a year. It's called The Story of Self. What happened in your life and what decisions did you make that got you to this commitment? So this is my story of self. I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in music, and I played percussion instruments in the Miami Philharmonic Orchestra for 12 years and taught high school music. But 44 years ago, I founded the Anti-Poverty Lobby. Results, and a lot of times I'm asked, music, poverty lobby, what's the connection? When I look back in my life, there's certain experiences that start pointing me in a different direction. The death of a friend around high school graduation in 1964 and the assassination of Senator Robert Kennedy around college graduation in 1968 got me to asking the questions of purpose. Why am I here? What am I here to do? What's my purpose? 9 years later, 1977, I go to a presentation on ending world hunger put on by the Hunger Project, and I go to this event thinking, well, hunger's inevitable. What do I know? I'm a musician. Well, I'm thinking it's inevitable because there are no solutions. Again, what do I know? I'm a musician. I'm thinking there are no solutions because if there were, somebody would have done something by now. But I go to this event. It's obvious right away. There's no mystery to growing food, clean water, basic health. I'm not hopeless about the perceived lack of solutions. I'm hopeless about human nature. People will just never get around to doing the things that can be done. But there's one human nature I have some control over, my own, and my questions. Why am I here? What am I here to do? So I get involved in a big way. This is the end of the story. In 1978 and 79, I spoke to 7,000 high school students, classroom by classroom, on ending world hunger. And before I went into the first classroom, I read some statements from Jimmy Carter's Commission on World Hunger calling for the political will to end hunger. So I asked 7,000 students, what's the name of your member of Congress? I don't want to know if you wrote him. I don't want to know if you met him, just the name. Out of 7,000 asked, 200, fewer than 3% could answer correctly. 6,800, over 97% could not tell me. And this anti-poverty lobby, results that I founded, grew out of this gap between the calls for the political will to end hunger and the lack of basic information on who represented us in Washington. My story of self.
Thank you. That's a very interesting story of self. Obviously, curiosity was a driving force. And from time to time, Trish, maybe the last time or the time before you were on, we talk about on the show sometimes not definitions, but descriptions of curiosity. And I had a woman a couple of years ago who said it was courageous. Being creative, it's courageous creativity. And somebody else, Sam, a while ago said, it's curiosity, creativity. And because of you, I always pick a theme from one of my guests. Because of percussion, I was thinking about the rhythm of creativity, the beat of creativity, the vibrations of creativity. And that's why I did that. So interesting. And I don't feel alone anymore, Sam Daley-Harris, because I have wondered what's my purpose. I think I found it, but I'm not sure I accept that I found it. And that's a nuance that we have to deal with. Maybe it found us and we don't know it yet. So we'll talk about that. Thank you, Sam. It's a pleasure. And thank you for all your promotions, early promotions of the show. I appreciate it. Lovely to have you on. Fiona Bayliss, so happy to have you here. Met you at a recent publicity summit along with Sam, Trish from another summit. Fiona, I'm putting you on speaker view. Would you please fill in the blanks and tell us who you are? What's your creativity? Go ahead, Fiona.
It's such a pleasure to be here, and you're such a wonderful host. I'm just sitting here smiling. It's so beautiful to be with you guys. Oh my gosh, my life is totally a life of having to recreate myself constantly. As you can probably tell from my accent, I'm originally from England. I'm now living in beautiful BC, Canada, Victoria, BC, which is the capital of BC. And although most of you Americans think that it's cold up here, it's the Hawaii of Canada where I live. In England, I trained as a nursery nurse, and two of my passions are travel and children. And so I decided, being the youngest of four and seeing my older siblings get married and pop kids out right away, I'm like, no, I'm traveling the world. And so I became a very creative traveler. Took my backpack and I hiked around the world. And then I did several years where I decided to work as a nanny because I needed to make some money I couldn't keep. So I recreated kind of my citizenship in a way, and also my home, going to several different places, New Zealand, Australia, all over the US and Canada, and several countries in Europe as well. Met my, unfortunately now ex, but the father of my children here in Canada. Love this place, Victoria, BC. Came to Canada, and at that time, and still unfortunately, the lovely Canadian government would not recognize my training as a nursery nurse. So I had to recreate myself in Korea. And at that time, in the late 80s, early 90s, there were very few women in the financial industry. So I got myself trained and qualified as a chartered financial consultant, chartered financial planner, chartered life underwriter, and created a women's financial planning center because there were many women who wanted to talk to a woman about finance. Then a few years later after that, a sudden health crisis hit me. And that I had to totally recreate myself because I lost my ability to drive. I had to go and get a new job in a banking institution, became a financial advisor then. But after 2 brain surgeries, because my health had become so severe, I had to totally recreate myself again because I was no longer able to work. But I absolutely love doing, whenever I can, any kind of volunteer work. And so I remain as creative as I can in volunteer work with many different things. And I just love meeting people, traveling, and making a difference in the world. And that is my way of being creative now.
That's a wow. That is a wow. Sam was a wow. You're a wow, Fiona. Talk about going from a nursery nurse to a financial planner, forming a center, working with my goodness gracious. You were thinking not outside the box. You were painting a big circle and saying, the hell with the box. I'm just going to go. That's so interesting. Wow. That's absolutely fascinating. This is the kind of creativity we talk about here, is how do you figure out what do you want to do or what you don't want to do? Maybe you thought something was good and it wasn't. So we do something.
And you found something better.
There you go. I think I'm on my 9th career, but they're all starting to coalesce around speaking. So thank you very much, Fiona. Pleasure to have you here. And thank you for pitching me at the summit. I'm glad you did.
Thank you.
Trish is back. Trish, come on, give us an
Yes.
update. It was about 2 months ago you were on, and I'm delighted that you accepted my late invitation to fill the empty seat on the panel. It's always wonderful to have you. Trish, let's pretend the audience doesn't remember you. Tusk on them. I ran the audience meter, and actually, there are only 14 people who don't remember you, but talk to those 14, okay? Go ahead, Trish,
Well,
tell us. Bring us up to date. Go ahead.
Yeah, so first of all, it's a pleasure being back. It's always fun to be here with you, Red. My name is Trish Ahjel Roberts. I'm a transformational coach and a happiness expert. I'm also a yoga and meditation instructor and an energy healer. I started my business called Mind Blowing Happiness back in 2019. And since then, I've written 4 books. So the most recent one is the one you mentioned earlier, The Anger Myth, Understanding and Overcoming the Mental Habits That Steal Your Joy. But although my company is named Mind Blowing Happiness, I was not always mind-blowingly happy. So I actually worked as a financial advisor for 12 years. I did corporate sales for years before that. And I reached a point where the job wasn't working, the boyfriend wasn't working. I was a single mom in a new city. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? So one day I just sat at my kitchen table. I Googled the word meditation. I did a little bit of angry typing, like meditation. I thought maybe it would help. And then I stumbled into a lunchtime meditation in Atlanta where I was living at the time. And I will never forget the first time I walked into this beautiful space, the woman who greeted me said, I don't know if you're going to like this meditation today. And I was thinking, I'm ready for anything. And then finally she came around and she said, well, it's a meditation on death. And I thought,
Oh, dear.
I thought, of course, my life is a disaster. It's a meditation on death. But actually, in that moment, we did a mantra, I could die today, over and over. And it was almost like a near-death experience. It made me really appreciate my life. And then I thought, okay, I didn't know anything about this. What else don't I know? So I started studying Buddhist philosophy. I had already been practicing yoga. I went ahead and got certified. I started studying yoga philosophy more closely. And I guess the rest is history, right? So I became just so knowledgeable about those topics. I've been able to reach out to other people and kind of pull them along too, so that they can learn ways to be not only happy, but fulfilled and joyful and walking in purpose.
I think we found our thread here, didn't we? Happy, fulfilled, purpose, self. Just so all you know, some of you may not know, I started out as a computer programmer analyst working in the mainframe computer field. I was coding in COBOL on a Xerox Sigma 6 CP5 back in the key punch days. And I worked for some big educational institutions on the West Coast, and I loved it. I found it creative. And you're probably thinking, you're crazy, Red. No, you get a blank piece of paper, which is basically a printout that hasn't happened yet, and you're given a problem, and you use the syntax and the language of the language you're trained in and that you're going to code in, and you come up with filling the cards that go into the system that create that report that gives the user, the end user, the results. There's a tremendous amount of creativity and joy in solving a problem that way. And I found that was interesting. I got into media very much by accident. Uh, you'll appreciate this, Trish and Fiona. I'm not so sure about you, Sam. I was in a very bad relationship, and one day I was unhappy. That's all. Not bad, bad, but unhappy. And one day I was reading the New York Times, and I happened to come across a little reader ad. We're talking about a half an inch tall by 1 column, and it said, "Did you ever want to do stand-up comedy? Call this number." And I said, "What? Seriously? What? What?" I clipped it out and I stuck it in my wallet. In between manicures and going to therapy and crying a lot, one day this thing fell out of my wallet, and I called the number. And a woman answered, name is Mary. She's a working comedian. I've known her for years. And I said, what do you do here? And she said, it's a comedy institute. We're going to teach you how to put together a routine. And we're going to get you on a stage in one of the biggest comedy clubs in New York in 3 weeks. And we're going to teach you how to I said, you're going to write my jokes? She said, hell no, you're going to write your own jokes. I said, but I don't know how to do that. She said, we're going to teach you. So I enrolled. And I met people from all walks of life who had things they thought were funny they wanted to say. And 3 weeks later, my family schlepped 2 car loads of people to Caroline's and paid the fee. And I was on stage as a new comic in front of about 250 people. And I got invited to do comedy all over little clubs in New York, places you'd never heard of. So it was interesting, and that got me into media. And then somebody in my neighborhood in Great Neck read about me. I put an article in the local paper. Local girl does comedy. Somebody invited me on a local TV show. And then somebody invited me on another TV show. And then somebody invited me to start a radio show on a big Long Island AM station. And the rest is history. So we don't know where it's going to take us, do we, Sam and Trish and Fiona? Sometimes you just follow that piece of spaghetti in and out of the sauce, right, Fiona? I've never done that metaphor before. And you see where it takes you. Interesting. And I'll tell you more after the show. So that's my little story. But I got into media and I had my own 4 TV shows on Long Island. And then I got into radio. And now I call this a simulcast. People say, oh, you have a podcast. No, this is not a podcast. We're not pre-recording. We're not editing and scrubbing and just taking the good parts. It's all good. Fiona and Sam and Trish, it's all good. I call this a free fall without a net. We're here, ladies and germs, and that's what we're doing. Okay, sorry about that, Sam. Let's go to the quotes here. I'm in a mood today. Sam Daley-Harris has sent us a quote. I've asked you for quotes from fictional character in a movie or TV show or a song lyric, and you sent us a line from Brave, a song by Sarah. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Bareilles, is that how she pronounces it?
Yep.
Good. It's 2013, the lead single from her album, The Blessed Unrest. It's written by Sarah and Jack Antonoff from the band Fun. She was inspired by a friend's struggles when they were trying to come out as gay. Okay, this was her third top 40 hit in the U.S., number 23 in the U.S., blah, blah, blah. Anyway, here is the title. Here is the line that Sam has picked. You're going to love this, Trish and Fiona. Show me how big your brave is. Wow, Sam, that's a line. Sam, take 2 to 3 minutes and tell us what this has to do with your creativity. Go.
Well, yeah, so a couple of things. I was invited to write a column in a democracy newsletter this year called The Fulcrum. And I've written 17 and published. And I know the publisher was very into music and the links to activism. And I just remembered driving with my daughter. She was 15 at the time. She's a therapist now. She's 23. We were right by the library in town where I live. And I turned to her and said, did she just say, show me how big your brave is? And my daughter said, yes, yes. And I just love that line. And so much of my columns come from some line that sparks something. And frankly, at first, a lot of the columns came from a song. When Eric Carmen, the singer-songwriter, died many months ago, he had a song, All by Myself.
All by myself.
Exactly. And
Yes.
my whole thing about advocacy is don't do it by yourself. Do it with a group. Don't do it alone. So a lot of times I'm looking for that phrase, that line. So I'll just give you one more example.
Yeah.
Phil Donahue passed away recently. And I was reading an article where Phil Donahue said the audience was asking better questions than I was. And so then he used to run into the audience and have the audience ask their questions. Well, my whole thing as an activism coach is so that your volunteers are more articulate than you're letting them on to be. They're going to ask better questions than you do. So don't keep it all in the staff. Spread it around and let it out there. So it's just one more example of how looking for inspiration in a phrase or a comment or a quote and then running with it. I won't tell you what my latest one is, but
I love it. The fact that you're inspired by lines. What did they just say? What did they sing? What was that line? What was that phrase? I think a lot of us experience that, but we don't stop. Sometimes it's an earworm. It just goes all day long, all day long. Now I'm going to be singing all by myself for the next 48 hours, Sam. Thank you very much. Could be worse. But the point is that I think all of us we're aware, and it's like sliding by, like driving in the next lane in a car. And we see it, we hear it, we know it, and then we just let it go. But you grab it. You grab it and
I
you say,
call
let
it
me.
paying attention. You
Yeah.
called it some other things earlier, but paying attention, not like, ooh, I mean, just
Yep.
paying attention.
Yeah.
It's not a,
Life
tight
is
thing. It's just,
life
yeah.
is happening. Life is happening. It's all around us. Very interesting being aware. Okay,
And
let's go.
one more thing, if
Yes.
I could,
Yeah.
paying attention to what inspires me.
Yes.
Noticing that I just got inspired or reminded or energized by this or that.
Yes. But we might not know that it inspires us until we pay attention to it. And then that little light bulb goes off. And I have a light bulb story in the special holidays today that you're going to enjoy. So remind me to tell you that. I think you'll remember light bulb, everybody. Okay. Thank you, Sam. Fiona Bayliss has picked a very iconic classic quote from Andy Dufresne, played by Tim Robbins, and later said by Ellis Boyd, Red Redding, played by Morgan Freeman. The movie, of course, is Shawshank Redemption, a 1994 drama film based on a Stephen King novella called Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption. Story of banker Andy Dufresne, sentenced to life in the penitentiary for murdering his wife and her lover, despite his claims of innocence. There's a money laundering scheme and a do no good prison warden. Interesting cast. James Whitmore was in it. Very interesting. Here's the line. It's famous and it's worth it. Get busy living or get busy dying. Fiona, what a powerful quote. Why don't you tell us what that has to do with you? Go ahead. Fiona, we weren't hearing you for a second. Go, start again. Go ahead.
I just love that line, and there's so many other things in that movie that really it's just one of my favorite movies. I know another one in it is Hope is a Good Thing, and there are just so many ways throughout life that you're talking all about creativity, and that when those curveballs hit us, and they do, no matter who we are, no matter where we live, no matter our age, our gender, our skin color, no matter what it is, those curveballs are going to come, and usually when we least expect them and in the least way we expect them. But it's either are you going to roll with the punches and are you going to, another line, are you going to, is life happening to you or is life happening for you? And, the whole thing in my book is all the things that the different curveballs that have come to me, not just me, but friends and family that I've seen throughout life, and how to take those and make them work for you and become a better person because of it, and be a better person in your community and in life, and get the most out of life.
Is life happening for you? Isn't that interesting? What an interesting twist on to you. Is it passing you by? Sam has a comment. Go ahead, Sam.
Well, I just want to say, I remember it was 10:30 at night, and my wife and I said, let's just watch like 20 minutes of Shawshank Redemption. And we could not turn it off till it was over. And there are these scenes in there with the Mozart aria playing through
I
the
love
prison
it.
yard. They're just these like whole otherworldly scenes that are just extraordinary.
Yeah, I love it. And I just, the characters with Morgan Freeman in it, and just the relationship. And it's such a touching movie. And I think one that anybody can relate. I mean, I'm not saying everybody's going to prison, but there's so many things in relation to life and how you deal with life and how you deal with adversity.
Yep.
And
if you pull back from the prison setting, it's about life.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Life and choices. Okay. And creativity. There we go. Trish has picked a quote. I haven't heard of this one. It's from the movie Love Jones, 1997 romantic comedy drama. Trish, the only two genres that are hyphenated are comedy drama. If it was an animated, sci-fi, adventure, epic, opera, nobody would hyphenate it. But comedy drama, I've noticed in all my research, is hyphenated. The character is Nina Mosley, played by Nia Long.
Nia.
Let's see. Story in Chicago. Darius Lovehall is a poet, giving a reading at the Sanctuary, an upscale nightclub with jazz. There you go, Sam. And poetry to a bohemian audience. Before his set, he meets Nina, a gifted photographer. They talk, and he retitles his poem, A Blues for Nina. A mutual attraction is sparked. He runs into her at the record store and asks her out. She says it's bad timing, and they just keep getting interrupted. There's a lot of cheating going on and all that good stuff. Here's the quote Trish has picked. Each night I breathe you and become high. Ooh, that's provocative. Are we old enough for that one, Trish? Don't answer that. Trish, go ahead and tell us what this means to you.
It's funny because last time I was on here, I was using the O word, which we won't use this time.
No, I saw that quote. Yeah.
But this time, yes, now we're talking about becoming high. However, I will say this, it is so important to feel good and to feel good for all the right reasons, particularly in the creative process. So when you feel good about yourself, you feel confident, you can actually have that natural high while you are creating, which is probably the most divine, close to divine consciousness type of thing that you can do. You're taking something from nothing to something, whether it is as an entrepreneur, you might be creating a product or a service or a website or a podcast or a book or, a painting, a drawing, music, whatever. We're going from nothing to something. And in that process, don't get me wrong, there is pain there. There's definitely pain in writing a book, but there is also that beautiful, beautiful high. So I just love that quote, that going to every night, what is every night I breathe you, I feel
Yes.
high. It could be a lover, but it could also be your book, your music, your art. So yeah, I love that.
Could be
And I wanted
anything.
to and I
Yes, go
wanted to
ahead.
bring attention to this film. So this is a 1997 film. It did not make a lot of money at the time. It is a primarily Black audience. It's an urban audience. It reflected very much my life growing up in Brooklyn, although they're based in Chicago. But it's such a wonderful film. It's one of the few films that I've watched over and over again and enjoy the scenes over and over again. And I think part of it with the romance that's in there is that it's not boy meets girl and they live happily ever after. It's like boy meets girl at the wrong time, and then they meet again, and then it doesn't work out. And so it shows that kind of circling back, which is more like what most of us go through, even with our careers. We're circling back, we're trying different things, and sometimes it all comes together.
Thank you. Fiona, join us. What?
Oh, I just wanted to say to that, Trish, that's such a beautiful thing. And, one of the things that I talk about in my experiences in meeting with people with volunteer work that I do now, my book is in relation to people living with chronic illness and terminal illness. And that thing of finding a way to feel peace and comfort and pleasure in your body, everything that they are discovering now and understanding about the mind-body connection, and I'm sure your book covers that in regards to anger and that, it is so important and it's so healing to your body to be able to find a way to get pleasure, especially if you're living with chronic pain. It's a huge area that they're now uncovering and learning how positive and good things can be used in a healing way, which is such a positive thing.
It
Thank
is.
you.
I'm a member of the Psychophysiologic Disorder Association. It's mind body. It's another way of saying it.
Yes.
I pay
yes.
$5 a month and I get to go to webinars where Dr. David Clark with an Eon Clark and other physicians, these are trained regular Western MDs who are finding pathways to helping people through mind body. And it's absolutely fascinating. I also did Shirzad's course in positive intelligence earlier this year, learning to be mindful, to pay attention, put your feet on the floor, wiggle your toes, feel the floor, listen to the sounds, what's happening around you, ground yourself. It's very, very powerful. And sometimes when I'm going to share this all with you, if you get nervous or jumpy or something isn't going right, you ever heard of self-havening? Any of you, Sam or Fiona or Trish? Very simple. I want you all to do it with me. Cross your hands over your chest and touch your shoulders, and then pull your hands down your arms very slowly and end up touching your hands together. And feel all the sensations on the way down. Do it 3 times. This has saved my life from anxiety. Isn't that something? If you look up havening or self-havening, there are all kinds of ways, including just touching your hands together, singing a certain note. It's not woo-woo. It's very, very interesting. But for some reason, I wanted to share with all of you a little trick I learned, something about paying attention. And I want you to see this. What's behind me? These are the yellow gladiolas that happen to be growing in the side garden of my house. I have 4 yards on this house. All around me is a different yard, 4 yards. And this is taken through the window in my middle room, which was a guest bedroom. And there's a little light reflection on the window, which makes it look like there are white lines drawn through it. And it looks like I'm in a garden somewhere, doesn't it? This is taken from the bedroom window. And then here's another one. Leaves. These are the changing leaves. And it's as simple. When I go on Zoom calls that are not radio shows, I put one of these backgrounds up instead of just having my room behind me. This is just a picture taken with an iPhone. There's no editing involved. There's no AI involved. And this was a pink line in the sky. Interesting? And here's another one. This was a sunrise, just a sunrise. So I just wanted to share that with you and show you it's so simple to put yourself in a place, a mindful place with nothing more than a photograph, and you just load it into Zoom. And now I have to go back and find my background for the show. And here we are. See, there we go. Okay. Thank you for indulging me. I'm going to go to you. I don't know why I want to do that. Just wanted to share that with you. Let's go to the creativity statements. We still have plenty of time. Sam Daley-Harris, I'm looking at your statement number 4. I'm going to read it, take about 2 minutes and expand it a little bit. And you say, when I hit a wall, I take a break. I listen to a song or read a piece that inspires me, and then I get back to work. And you also add in another statement, I believe if it inspires me, it will inspire others. Sam, go ahead. Unpack this for us, please.
Well, yeah, actually, it's a little related to something Trish said a moment ago about I want people to know this movie or hear about this movie. My go-to song is a song by Eva Cassidy, Fields of Gold. And I've written a column that I'm going to just tell you the beginning of it. And it's been published in the Tennessean and in the Chicago Sun-Times, where I talk about Eva Cassidy. Maybe your viewers and listeners know her or don't. But I was saying that like her Fields of Gold just put me at peace. Her Over the Rainbow blows my mind. But Eva Cassidy died at 34 from melanoma before anybody really in the world knew of her, except for in her community. And her local community held a concert 6 weeks before her death to raise money for her health care costs. And she was helped on stage and she sang one song, What a Wonderful World.
Oh.
And I said, well, what if our politics could come from such grace and
Sam,
gratitude?
it's a good thought, but we're not talking politics the day before the election. So please be careful. Go ahead.
But I say that grace and gratitude speaks to a place that we could go. And that's where her music takes me. And so when I need a break, I hang with Eva and really get the sustenance that I need.
Sustenance, creative nurturing. Oh, Sam, we've got a new way of looking at creativity. Thank you. Creativity, the sustenance for creativity. Where does the inspiration come from? And I love what you said. If it inspires me, it could inspire other people. Isn't that interesting? I wrote a almost murder, very sarcastic, almost thriller novel for 2 years. And I separated out the almost murder part from the rest of the book because it was 2 separate threads. When I put the last line of dialogue into the main character's mouth, I was finished. I never put the 2 parts back together again. So it's sitting on my desk in 2 Word files. I haven't done it yet. And somebody said to me, structure, you've got to find structure. You've got to reconstruct it and make it one book. But it's been going through my mind recently. I'm not just going to call it an almost thriller and an almost this. It's going to be a zany romp through the world of HOA living 55 plus, and it's zany and it's hysterically funny. And I need to find, but Sam, I'm thinking if it made me laugh while I was writing it, I bet you it'll bring joy to other people. That's right. And I have to use a fake name because the people who were where I was when I wrote it would kill me. So let's go on. Thank you very much, Sam. Good ideas. Fiona, I'm looking at your, here we go. Statement number 3. You say, we have the ability to become so many things. And that's what we're talking about. Fiona says she became a ballerina at 5, a piano player at 6, high school graduate at 18. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your music training and all of that? Fiona, go ahead.
I feel like I can relate to Sam here when it comes to music, because I didn't really say it in my bio and whatever, but that sure as heck is one of my passions is music. And I not only did I learn to play the piano, but I also sing in a gospel choir. I sing on the worship team at my church, and I took for 6 years I took classical singing lessons at the Victoria Conservatory of Music here. And I love music. And my daughter almost refuses to go to concerts with me anymore, because when I go to concerts, I say to her, I don't just hear music, I feel it. And I just, Mom, you have to be so, and I'm like, yeah, but I just do. I feel it in my body. And again, like you were saying, Trish, finding something that makes you feel good. That is when I'm feeling down, or if I'm feeling depressed, I know fields of gold, and I know a lot of beautiful, beautiful songs I just feel so good when I sing. So
That's
yeah.
lovely. Fiona, have you ever gone to a concert where you're snapping your fingers quietly and you're humming along and your feet are tapping and nobody else is moving to the music? Does that bother you? Because it pisses me off.
No, I don't usually do it quietly. That's the problem. I'm singing my heart out.
Okay, you're like me. You're like me then.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I look around, I say, why aren't these people responding to the music? It's going through our veins. It's in our bloodstream.
Oh, totally. I feel it in every fiber. Yes.
Me too. And I wonder why in the world what's going on here? Amazing. Okay, so we have more in common than we thought. Thank you very much. Trish, I'm going to combine two of your statements because I like them so much. So number one, you say, this is classic. Everybody listen up. I am eternally fascinated by blank pages. There's pain, Sam is liking this. There's pain, anticipation, anxiety, all in there. Next thing I know, I've created an article, a book, a painting. From nothing springs forth something beautiful, unique, and valuable. Trish, this is an iconic statement here. This is one I hold on to. And also, I'm going to add one more that I think, because we haven't talked about this. You say, I love to cook, but I hardly ever measure or write down recipes. I like when I make a big salad one day, and the next day, it's stir fry over rice. I like eating meals that are one of a kind. I'm the same kind of cook as you. Trish, go ahead and tell us about this blank page, because most people, it's like, what do I do with a blank page? And you're saying, I'm going to make something out of it. Trish, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think it's common for anyone who's written anything. And I do want to mention, I have a new article out. It's called The Transformative Power of Gratitude. So you could find that if you Google my name. It came out this month. But that article, my books, my website, my tagline, my company name, all of it started off with a blank page with me shaking, trying to figure out, how do I describe myself? How do I express what I'm trying to say? Is it going to resonate with people? Are they going to think I make sense? And then we have, these layers of self-doubt. And then you reach this point where you just have to push it all aside, find your big girl voice, come out into the world, throw it out there, and then see what happens. And I will tell you, usually, I would say 99.9% of the time, people are moved by authenticity. So if you show up as yourself, even if you come with your little scraped knees and your scraped elbows and your sad story, people will say, oh my God, I have scraped knees and scraped elbows and sad stories too. And I totally relate to that. So the blank page is a big thing. Many times we get stuck. So sometimes you just have to throw it on paper. It's almost like throwing paint against a wall. And then you can go back and move the paint around and clean it up and figure out how to make it look the way you want it to look. But you get started and you create something, and then you can fix it up later. Now, the cooking thing is another.
Go ahead. You're making me hungry.
I don't know if it's bad or good. I remember dating someone a while back, and he was like, oh, this is really good. You should make it again. I'm like, good luck with that. So I just like to, find the bottle, sprinkle, and it might be, I think what I said there, it could be a salad today. Tomorrow, those greens could be in my stir fry. So I just like having that freedom to create something, even if it's something as simple and temporary as meal.
I'll give you a throw together as a Yiddish word. I think it's engapachka, throw everything together, like in the, yes.
Yeah.
I have a rice cooker and I keep it on the counter. I buy different kinds of rice and you put in the 2 little cups and then you measure the water, you close it, you click the button. 26 minutes later, you've got fluffy, any kind of rice. It's wonderful. No
I live by
burning,
my rice cooker.
nothing. So I had the rice cooker and I had leftover rice. So what am I going to do with it? Well, I had some fully cooked frozen shrimp in the freezer in a bag I hadn't opened a couple weeks ago, and they didn't, but they needed to be defrosted. Well, these things don't defrost. You can put them in the fridge and they'll stay frozen for the next 22 hours. So you put a little water on them and then they freeze in the water and they make ice cubes. So you got to take them out and put them on the counter. Okay. So I put a little canola oil in a small pan, coated pan. And I added a little Johnny's seasoning salt. That's my favorite. You can buy it online now without the MSG. That's what I recommend. Get a big bottle, and then I have the little bottle, and I fill a little bottle a couple times a year. And not too much salt. And then I cut up the rice. No, first I put in the shrimp, 4 shrimp, and I let them get a little bit feisty in there so that they're cooked, but I want them to have a little bit of color to them. And then I cut them up with a soft fork so I don't hurt the pan. And then I throw the rice in. And I blend the rice in with the shrimp. And I said, well, what am I going to do? So it's rice and shrimp and salt. Big deal. Who cares? And then the thought came, go into your spice cabinet. Do you want soy sauce? Do you want basil? Do you want oregano? No. Guess what I picked? You'll never guess. There was a bottle of honey. I drizzled honey over the rice and the shrimp. Fiona's saying, wow, that seems good. It was phenomenal. Not a lot, not so it was gooey and, caramelized and all that, just enough to coat the top. And then I stirred it carefully and put it in a bowl. And it was shrimp and rice with honey. Who, Trish, would have ever thought about that? There's probably a recipe somewhere, but I just said, what have I got? Right? Sam, if it inspires me, maybe it inspires somebody else. Right, Trish? The blank page, right, Fiona, getting inspired. You never know where this is going to come from. Sometimes you open the cabinet, and I think there's probably a metaphor or an analogy for life. You open the cabinet and you see what's in it. Who do I want to be today? What do I want to do today? I'm looking at the clock. We've got 8 minutes left. So thank you all for the statements. And one more comment here. Trish says she's one of the people who loves being in the zone. Yes. And I have a quote about the zone. There's a psychologist named Mahaley Chisholm. It's got so many letters, got 25 letters. I can't even pronounce it. He wrote a book in 1990 that started the conversation about the flow state, Trish. And he says it's a state of mind where people can focus their brains, shut out distractions, and become much more productive. And I have a quote for all of you from, this is interesting, Rapunzel, voiced by Mandy Moore, from the 3D computer animated musical adventure fantasy comedy film. And there are no dashes in there, Trish. It's all separate words. This is the movie Tangled. And Rapunzel says, venture outside your comfort zone. The rewards are worth it. What do y'all think? Pretty cool? I think that's what we've all done. Yes. So I want to give you a couple of interests. Yes, Sam, go ahead.
Well, just quickly on the comfort zone. There's a drawing in my book, Reclaiming Our Democracy. There's a small circle labeled your comfort zone and a much larger circle labeled where the magic happens, and where you're encouraged to move out of your comfort zone and have that letter to the editor written and published, or meet with that member of Congress where it's a little less comfortable, but where the magic happens.
It's called take a chance, right?
Yeah.
Take a chance. Venture out. Let your flow, let you venture out of your comfort zone. We have some new definitions here. Today is November 4th. You'll find this very interesting. In 1963, the Beatles were giving a concert called the Royal Variety Performance in London. Guess who was in the audience? The Queen Mother, who was alive then, and Princess Margaret. John Lennon looked out at the audience and he said, this is famous, will the people in the cheaper seats clap your hands? All the rest of you rattled your jewelry. Okay. In 1963, the same day, Newsweek ran a story that said Bob Dylan had stolen the song Blowing in the Wind. I don't know the outcome of that. In, let's see, in 1972 in the state, Johnny Nash's, Nash, I Can See Clearly Now. Remember that one? It was number 1 on the Hot 100, the first reggae tune to top the chart. I thought that was interesting. On this day, interesting, in 1984, Prince's Purple Rain tour in Detroit opened with Sheila E. And the previous month, Her song, Glamorous Life, which Prince had written, was number 7, made it into the top 10. Very, very interesting. Let's see. On 1991, on this day, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame announced the 7th class of inductees, including, what a list, Jimi Hendrix, Booker T and the MGs, Sam and Dave, the Yardbirds, the Isley Brothers, Johnny Cash, and Bobby Blue Bland. What a group. On this day in 1992, Elton John and Bernie Taupin, who was his partner and his colleague and did a lot of writing. You ready for this? You all sitting down? Everybody sitting down? They signed a $39 million songwriting deal. 39, I know, Trish, with publishing giant Warner Chappell, Chappell, the largest deal up to that point. And this day in 95, Michael Jackson had a new song. I don't know what the song was. It was called Earth Song. He debuted it on a German celebrity game show called Wanna Bet? Okay. On this day in, let's see. Okay, we're going to leave that one alone. Celebrities. Ralph Macchio. Everybody remember him from The Karate Kid? He's 63 today. I didn't also know he was in My Cousin Vinny. Happy birthday. Matthew McConaughey. We all know who he is. Dazed and Confused, A Wedding Planner. He got an Academy Award for Best Actor for Dallas Buyers Club. And he had a radio TV film degree from University of Texas. He's 55 today. He's almost grown up. Jeff Probst. Anybody watch Survivor on TV? Jeff Probst, the host, is 63 today. Happy birthday. Kathy Griffin, bad girl comedian. That's all I'll say. My Life on the D List. She's 64. And if anybody watches The Real Housewives, one of the first original ones, Bethany Frankel, is 54 today. And I have a couple of other ones. We've got a couple minutes here. I want you all to say happy birthday to Meadow Walker, who is a she. She's 26. She's on Instagram. She has 4 million followers, Sam. She's obviously just a beginner. She's the daughter of the late actor Paul Walker, and Vin Diesel walked her down the aisle at her wedding, so she has some family pull there. On Instagram also, Lyna, Lyna Perez, who is 30, has 9 million followers, but she models bikini and lingerie. Sam, I don't know if you want to get into that field or not. And on TikTok, we have a young lady named Sydney with a Y, Sydney Smith, who's 23. Poor girl, she only has 2.5 million followers. Fiona, we're going to have to give her some tips. She does lip syncs and dances, and she videos her gymnastics. I would be very happy to see that. Today, National Candy Day. Candy. Hard candy, butterscotch, started in 1817 in Yorkshire, UK, when Samuel Parkinson started making it. In 1883, David Bradley's New Jersey candy store flooded. Guess what he called the candy, Sam? Saltwater taffy, because the water came in. 1941, M&Ms were invented by Forrest with 2 R's Mars. He saw soldiers eating chocolate pellets with a hard shell during the Spanish Civil War, so he made M&Ms. And Starbursts were invented in 1960. 65% of the total candy in America is consumed by people over 18, and 65% of U.S. candy brands were introduced over 50 years ago. There's a good field to be in. Okay, here's what everybody remember. I asked you to remember the light bulb. Remember? Okay. In 1963, the Easy Bake Oven was launched. It was launched with a light bulb. At Kenner Products, a salesman named Norman Shapiro was inspired to make a toy oven using incandescent light bulbs that would bake cookies because he saw street vendors keeping their pretzels warm with light bulbs. So he said, why not? So he went on a show called Give a Show Projector Fame, and they created it. Okay, the temperature can get up to 350 degrees Celsius. By 2013, they had sold 30 million Easy Bake ovens and 150 million packets. And eventually the government said, you got to move something. You can't use the light bulbs anymore. They're not. Yes. So they discontinued that. It's let's see. They made it. I'm trying to think of where. I'm trying to look at my notes here. Temperature, iconic, hot selling product, 500,000 sold the first year. And there's something about the, the bulb is replaced with a coil by government rule mandating light bulbs need energy efficiency in 2006. It's also Roast Your Dinner Day and Common Sense Day. and we are just about out of time. Don't go away, guests. I want to tell you that in 2014, I closed my show with the top 10 tips for women. Sam, you can listen to. The number one tip, I saved my notes, aspire to be Barbie. The biatch has everything. Here are my final notes. Life is short. Break the rules. Forgive quickly? Nah. Kiss slowly? Yeah. Love truly? Join me in a quick laugh uncontrollably. 1, 2, 3. Not bad. And never, ever regret anything that made you smile. Final words. Work like you don't need the money. Pretend. Dance like no one's watching. When I taught disco in high heels in a high school cafeteria on top of a Formica table, I never fell and everybody watched. Sing like nobody's listening and love like you've never been hurt. We all have. Get over it, right, Fiona? Let your heart grow and love again. Money talks, chocolate sings, la. And last but not least, I stole this line from a host 20 years ago. Thank you for turning me on. Don't go away, guests. Wave goodbye to LinkedIn, to Facebook, to YouTube. Michael, are we out?
We are out. I hope everybody has a great rest of their day.
Thank you very much. We'll be back next week.